Star Trek is paying tribute to one of the show's forgotten victims after 32 years. In the vast universe of Star Trek, loss is no stranger. From redshirt fatalities to major character deaths, the franchise has never shied away from confronting mortality. Yet some deaths are so swift, so quiet, or so narratively buried that they become almost forgotten, not because they lacked emotional weight, but because the Star Trek machine moved forward too quickly for reflection. Now, over 3 decades later, Star Trek is finally paying tribute to one such overlooked tragedy, the heartbreaking death of Mara Aster in Star Trek, The Next Generation's 3rd season. 32 years after her death, Star Trek canon is revisiting her legacy in a meaningful way, one that not only honors her memory, but also confronts the emotional aftermath of a loss that shook the Enterprise D crew, especially one young boy who lost his mother far too soon. The forgotten tragedy of Mara Aster. Mara Aster wasn't a bridge officer or series regular. She was a lieutenant and a xenarchaeologist assigned to the Enterprise D. Her appearance in the TNG episode The Bonding Season 3, Episode 5 was brief. She died off-screen during an away mission when a landmine-like explosive was triggered on an alien planet. But the emotional aftershocks were profound. Her death marked a pivotal moment for her son, Jeremy Aster, a boy suddenly orphaned and left in the care of Starfleet's emotional protocols. What made her passing especially tragic was how it illuminated the human cost of exploration. Star Trek had always presented Starfleet as noble, boldly going where no one had gone before, but Marla's death reminded viewers that even the noblest missions come with a price. The Bonding focused on how the crew dealt with Jeremy's grief, as well as their own. Worf, who had led the mission that resulted in her death, took it upon himself to perform a Klingon ritual with Jeremy, attempting to give the boy a cultural outlet for mourning. The gesture was moving, but in the episodic nature of TNG, Jeremy was never seen again. Marla's death was never referenced again. Her son's fate, left to the care of Starfleet, remained a mystery for 32 years. Until now. The return of Jeremy Aster. In a surprise move that delighted longtime fans, Star Trek Legacy, a new continuation series rumored to bridge the Next Generation and 25th Century era, has finally addressed the legacy of Mara Aster through her now-grown son. Episode 6 of the current season, Inheritance of Shadows, introduced Commander Jeremy Aster of Starfleet Intelligence, a reserved, haunted officer whose personal history shaped his perspective on duty and sacrifice. Played by a compelling new actor and subtly echoing the mannerisms of the child viewers once met, Commander Aster's reappearance is more than fan service. It's a direct continuation of an emotional thread left dangling since 1990. His reintroduction allows Star Trek to pay long-overdue tribute to his mother and to the children of Starfleet's fallen who rarely get more than a single scene of acknowledgement. Aster's journey reflects Starfleet's hidden cost. What makes Jeremy Aster's arc so powerful in Star Trek Legacy is its depth. He isn't a nostalgic callback. He's a man shaped by unresolved grief and the need to understand the institution that cost him everything. In Inheritance of Shadows, Jeremy reveals that he joined Starfleet to confront the unanswered questions of his youth. Why did his mother die? Was it preventable? And more painfully, did Starfleet forget her as quickly as the episode faded to credits? Through flashbacks and personal logs, we see Jeremy grapple with survivor's guilt and the burden of being raised aboard a ship full of people who knew his mother but rarely mentioned her again. The episode contains one of the most poignant lines in recent Trek memory. Greater than, they gave me replicators in school and holodecks. But no one could replicate a bedtime story for my mom. It's an emotional gut punch that encapsulates a recurring problem in Star Trek, the facelessness of loss. For all its utopian ideals, the franchise has often glossed over the long-term trauma of those left behind. Jeremy Aster finally gives voice to that silence. Worf's redemption, a Klingon promise honored. One of the episode's most touching moments comes when Jeremy confronts Worf, now a Starfleet ambassador. It's their first interaction in decades. Jeremy asks if Worf remembers his promise to be part of his life, a vow made during the bonding but never acted upon. Worf, with characteristic Klingon stoicism tinged by age and regret, simply says, "Greater than, I remembered." but I believed you were better off without a warrior's shadow hanging over you. The scene is heart-wrenching. Both men carry guilt, Worf for failing to protect Marla and later abandoning her son, Jeremy for holding on to anger for too long. But the conversation ends with mutual understanding, and Worf gifting Jeremy with a relic, Mara Aster's Starfleet insignia, recovered and preserved from the fateful mission. This gesture and Worf's quiet penance elevates the bonding's narrative to something more than a forgotten subplot. It becomes a saga about mourning, redemption, and intergenerational healing, an arc rarely granted to secondary characters in serialized sci-fi. How Star Trek is evolving its relationship with loss. The return of Jeremy Aster and the honoring of Marla's memory represent a notable shift in Star Trek storytelling. In recent years, modern Trek has become more character-driven, with Discovery, Picard, and now Legacy embracing continuity and emotional realism over the detached procedural tone of earlier series. This new narrative style allows the franchise to circle back and enrich past stories. Mara Aster's legacy, for instance, is not just a footnote now. It's part of Starfleet history. She's remembered in a database of fallen officers, and her death is referenced in Starfleet Academy's ethics classes as a case study in cultural risk assessment on alien worlds. Even more, Jeremy's current mission in Legacy is tied to the same species whose ancient trap killed his mother, completing a full circle moment. This time, though, instead of retaliation, Jeremy pursues peaceful negotiation, vowing not to let her death be the reason for vengeance, but a reason for understanding. The impact on longtime fans. For fans who grew up with the Next Generation, the resurrection of this forgotten storyline is both cathartic and profound. The bonding was always seen as a quiet, introspective episode, yet it lacked the narrative closure fans often crave. With Inheritance of Shadows, Star Trek has done something rare. It acknowledged that past, filled in the emotional blanks, and offered healing. Across fan forums, reactions have been overwhelmingly positive. Some have called it one of the best Legacy episodes to date. Others shared how they themselves were children who lost parents, and how Jeremy's story mirrored their own grief journey. It's a reminder that Star Trek, at its best, isn't just about warp drives and wormholes. It's about people. A new Starfleet culture, remembering the fallen. Beyond the personal story of Jeremy and Mara Aster, Legacy also subtly explores a cultural shift within Starfleet itself. In the 25th century, memorials for fallen officers are more prominent. Each starship now features a wall of light, a digital constellation representing every life lost in service. When Jeremy returns to the Enterprise G for the first time, he stands silently before the glowing representation of his mother's name. It's a small moment, but it symbolizes a larger narrative evolution. Starfleet is learning to remember. No more forgotten orphan children left to